Alright, much Abrew time. Playing the infamous Blackburn deck in Modern, and we'll try this. Seems good enough. So, Mismatched Swamp, which is pretty fitting for Blackburn. Play the Bump in the Night, pass the turn. Opponent's down to 17, off to a good start. Polluted Delta for our opponent, cracks it. Gets an island, and Serum Visions. Opponent passes. Well, play Marsh Flats, pass the turn. What's our opponent on? Another Polluted Delta, cracks it. Gets a Swamp, and Inquisition. Alright. They get to choose between Bolt and Messenger. Really wanted to play that Messenger. Yeah, opponent takes it. And Serum Visions. And opponent passes. Well, let's crack Marsh Flats, get a Blood Crypt, tapped. Play a Swamp, pass the turn. I don't know if this is a great Obliterator matchup. I figure our opponent's going to either be able to counter it or kill it. Steam Vents for our opponent. And Snapcaster Mage. Probably for a Serum Visions. Yep. 4 Serum Visions. Flashes it back. So we get to play an Obliterator, but then our opponent can terminate or dismember it. Leaves 1 on top. Alright. Fatal Push is okay. Well, let's run Obliterator out there. Pass the turn. Cross our fingers that maybe somehow our opponent doesn't have removal. There's the Terminate. Yep. Plays Bloodstained Mire. And opponent gets in with Snapcaster. Now we have a choice. I wish we had discard. Well, let's Fatal Push Snapcaster. Marsh Flats. Do we just run it out there? Snapcaster kills it, removal spell kills it, counter kills it. Alright, let's pass. We can draw into like a Collective Brutality or something. Opponent cracks, down to 12. We're getting close to flashing back our Bump in the Nights as well. Blood Crypt, tapped. And Thought Scour, mills 2 lands. Maybe our opponent, well, what do they got? Collective Brutality. Well, let's bold our opponent. They go back up to 11, though, thanks to Drain. Breeding Pool tapped. Jeez. And some big Delve spell. Well, at this point, we probably just have to play Obliterator. We've managed to play around counters. We still could lose to removal, though, pretty easily. Crack Marsh Flats. Get Leech-Ridden Swamp. More lands. Well, play Obliterator. Pass the turn. Hope that our opponent doesn't have removal somehow. Or a second Snapcaster. We're down to our last threat. And our opponent's still at 11, which isn't that low for us to burn them out. Blooming Marsh. 2 cards in hand still. Good news is if our opponent doesn't have a removal spell, this is a really fast clock. Even 1 hit. Oh no. 3. What does our opponent have? 3 mana. Alright, Liliana the Last Hope. Ticks down to get back Snapcaster. Yep. So next turn they can kill it if we don't draw a discard spell. Well, let's see what we draw. Vampire Cutthroat, pretty much a dead card here. So attack our opponent. Down to 6. Play the Swamp. Bump in the Night our opponent. Down to 3. And we need a burn spell. Burn spell off the top. We actually have quite a few. We have 12, I believe, 3 damage burn spells. Or drain spells. And we've only used 2. So we have 10 in our deck. And assuming our opponent doesn't have a counter, it's lethal. Other stuff that would be lethal, Giralf's Messenger is really sneakily lethal with Leech-Ridden Swamp and Vampire Cutthroat. So we have possibilities. Oh, geez. Opponent, Maelstrom Pulse. That's bad because it lets our opponent flashback Collective Brutality with Snapcaster to get out of burn range. Well, this is a huge draw. Opponent has Snapcaster and 1 unknown. It wasn't a counter last turn. So this is the turn. We gotta draw it this turn, I think. Come on, deck. Oh, the worst. The worst, the worst, the worst. Stuff that dies to Liliana. Well, play Dark Confidant. Play Cutthroat. That's not what we needed. Opponent's last card was Fatal Push! Oh. Yep, that does it. What could we even draw? I don't think there's anything. Obliterator, I guess, is the one card that could work. Oh, no! Our opponent just top-decked another Brutality? Oh, my God. Alright. Well, I mean, now we definitely can't win. Good God. Okay. Well, it was close. And our opponent definitely got some hits there at the end off the top. Yep, you get to do it again. So we're down to 2, and there's no card in our deck that's relevant. Collective Brutality, on the list of cards that are not relevant, would not have actually killed our opponent either way, even before all that. So against this deck, Blood Moons are coming in, and Relics are coming in. I think we go down a couple Fatal Pushes, and I think we gotta go down Cutthroats, which are too easy to die to Liliana's. Well, maybe we leave Fatal Pushes. Go down a couple Alms. Let's try it like that. Alright, we get to play first, and... Alright, hand's not exciting, but Sign in Blood's decent. So let's just Smoldering Marsh, pass the turn. Polluted Delta. Opponent passes. Well, Bloodstained Mire, crack it. Grab a Swamp, and I think we just Sign in Blood ourselves. Yeah, Sign in Blood. Relic's not bad. I actually like this hand now. Those were some good cards to draw. Relic is actually super important against this deck. Blood Crypt, tapped. Breeding Pool for our opponent. We draw Blood Crypt. Well, I think we just lead on Duress mode of Collective Brutality. Opponent Thought Scours. Let's take Kolaghan's Command. And then Bloodstained Mire, crack it. We're just going to get down our Relic, get a Swamp, and Relic. Start the exiling. Our opponent can get down a Tasigur. And we can't actually kill a Tasigur at the moment. Opponent plays Blooming Marsh. Alright. Collective Brutality can take Push or Sign in Blood. And then they can Tasigur. Takes a Sign in Blood. And there's the Tasigur. I don't know if we actually have any hard removal for that. Let's Giralf's Messenger. Drain our opponent down to 15. Blood Crypt. Untapped. Pass the turn. So I think we got to try to win on the aggro plan. And just race. Certain Visions for our opponent. Man, Bloodwood would be insane against this deck. Our opponent's deck is super greedy. Ultra greed. Leaves 1 on top. Plays a Tar Pit. Gets in with Tasigur. Well, exile Certain Visions. We might just have to give up on this Relic. Well, I guess we can wait. Draw another Bob. Well, get in with Messenger. Opponent takes it. Down to 12. Play another Messenger. So our opponent could Fatal Push both of them, or Maelstrom Pulse both of them, but that's not actually that problematic. They might have to, like, terminate here and then Maelstrom Pulse. Opponent plays a land. So we know they have a bunch of removal spells in hand, and not much else. I don't even know if Maelstrom Pulsing is bad for us here. Because we drain for 4, and then we'd have lethal threats. Our opponent could block, but it puts them in a situation where they could be dead to a black burn spell. And we get an extra draw with Relic. Alright, opponent goes with Liliana, the last hope. Takes it up on a Messenger. Stays back on D. Well, I think the time has come to sack the Relic, draw a card. Another land. And another land. We can't play our Dark Confidants because they lose to Liliana. We don't have any burn spells. I guess we could play both Dark Confidants. That doesn't feel great. We might get one activation. They're never going to get past Liliana, though. Well, play Dark Confidant. This isn't ideal. Play Dark Confidant. Play Bloodstained Mire, pass the turn. We would have rather just drawn a burn spell. Alright, there's a Fatal Push. So both Bob's going to be dead, unfortunately. Opponent has Terminate, Maelstrom Pulse in hand. Draws a Serum Visions. I wonder if this deck should have more Blood Moons. Blood Moon is so powerful. Seems silly not to take advantage of it. Opponent keeps one. Draws Inquisition to take our Fatal Push. Takes up on Messenger, so they're just going to kill the Dark Confidant. Kills Dark Confidant. Opponent passes. Well, get our Leech-Ridden Swamp. Very slow damage. Come on, deck. Another Fatal Push. Pass the turn. Liliana, pretty good against a lot of our stuff. There's the Maelstrom Pulse. Well, drain our opponent for 1. Would they leave another removal spell on top? Hit our opponent. Down to 7. Hit our opponent. Down to 5. Takes up Liliana. What's the last card? Collective Brutality, drain. We drop to 7. Opponent's at 7. They also have Liliana, though. What would be a good draw here? I don't think there's a draw that wins us the game. Nothing that dies to Liliana. Please. Opponent passes. Well, this gets rid of Tasigur. Alright. Attack our opponent. They block. Drain our opponent. Down to 6. Collective Brutality. Kill Tasigur. Pass the turn. Oh my goodness, we are so close. Be nice if our opponent just whiffed on drawing for a second. Takes down Liliana to get back the Tasigur. Yup. Opponent's on the timeout plan. If we win this game, they're likely going to time out. Plays the Tasigur again. Also drew something else. Oh, Tar Pit? Alright. That's fine. We get to just kill Tar Pit. Opponent attacks. Kill the Tar Pit. Well, come on, deck. Opponent drew a land. Come on. Obliterator's pretty interesting. Play Obliterator. Opponent's playing off the top of their deck, and they don't... Oh, man. Alright, well, this is it. This is it. Opponent's playing off the top. Come on, whiff, whiff, one turn whiff. We need one turn of them not hitting anything. And our opponent scoops it up. They didn't hit it, and we got there. And now we're on to game 3, and our opponent only has 6 minutes on the clock, which gives us a pretty good chance of sneaking out a win. All right, run it back. See if we can, survive for 6 minutes, I guess. Winning would also be acceptable. Like, actually winning. This is a risky keep, but we're on the draw, so we're going to try it. Darkslick Shores for our opponent, and discard. Inquisition. I bet they take Relic. We really wanted that, because we wanted to be able to... Oh, they take Messenger. Well, that's actually fine. No land, so play Relic. Relic is helpful because if we don't draw a land, we can cycle it to find a land. Get rid of the Inquisition. So we're just trying to keep the graveyard light for the Delve cards. Tar Pit for our opponent. Land? It's a land. We'll play the land, and we're just going to sign and blood ourselves. That was good timing. To draw the land off the top. Pass the turn. Now I kind of like our position. Steam Vents for our opponent, untapped. Liliana's still obnoxious. Liliana, yes, obnoxious. Takes it up. That shuts down our Dark Confidants. Well, let's duress our opponent. Take the Kolaghan's Command. Exile the Kolaghan's Command. play Marsh Flats, pass the turn. So we have to make sure we don't die to Liliana. Takes out Liliana. We'll crack Marsh Flats. Get our Smoldering Marsh. And I think we bolt Liliana. Make sure it doesn't ultimate. That would beat us. Play the Swamp. Play Obliterator. Hope our opponent doesn't draw a fetch land. For Fatal Push. Not a fetch land. Takes up Liliana. Alright. Well, we get to get in. I mean, I think we get in at Liliana. Attack Liliana. Now our opponent can Fatal Push it, but... yeah, there's Fatal Push. Exile a card. Play a Swamp, and... I think we just pass. Dark Confidant we know gets Fatal Push, so we'd like to draw another discard spell. Blood Moon is still just the absolute nuts. Opponent passes. More Fatal Pushes. Well, exile Fatal Push. Bump in the night, our opponent. Pass the turn. Just runs a Snapcaster out there. Opponent's feeling the pressure of the clock running down. Goes to combat. Gets in with Snapcaster. Well, we'll take it. Down to 15. Maelstrom Pulse, our relic. Well, yeah, let's Fatal Push Snapcaster. Crack the relic, draw a card. We do lose more Fatal Pushes. We do lose one Bump in the Night. Another Swamp. Well, pass the turn. Still can't run out Dark Confidant because it just immediately dies. Thankfully, our opponent doesn't have a real threat at the moment. We can kill Tar Pit if they attack. There's Tar Pit. Yep, so we get to Fatal Push that. A Collective Brutality would be pretty sweet, just to get the Fatal Push out of our opponent's hand. Well, I guess we Alms of the Vein. Drain our opponent down to 12. Pass the turn. Also drain our opponent down to 2 minutes, 38 seconds. Opponent's passing. Well, play a Swamp, pass the turn. Still have not seen our Blood Moons. Opponent passes. Oh, play Marsh Flats, pass the turn. We've drawn a lot of lands. A few more than we really want. Opponent runs out of Snapcaster. I don't think we need to kill that yet. Plays a Swamp. Gets in. Down to 16. We get... well, play a Dark Confidant. Play a Dark Confidant. Since we drew 2, this means we don't just lose to one Fatal Push. Our opponent needs multiples. And they just ran a Snapcaster out there. So they can't just Fatal Push, flash it back. They didn't even spend the Fatal Push yet. Maybe our opponent feels like because of time they gotta let our Bobs live and hope that they get lucky on the Bob damage. That is a risky line though. Good lord. But I mean, if you're that desperate because of time, it might be the only thing you can do. Our opponent's not even playing an especially slow deck. Alright, opponent goes Damnation. That's fine. Pluto Delta. Good god deck. Well, pass the turn. The question's going to be, can our opponent kill us in 59 seconds? And I don't even know if they're favored here, honestly. Like, even if time was not a concern, I'm not convinced that they're just favored. Their last card, unknown card, seems to be Kolaghan's Command. Yep, Kolaghan's Command gets back Snapcaster. We discard a land. That's fine. I mean, I think that we're reasonably in this game, even if it wasn't for the timeout. Although it is a little disappointing that we've drawn so many lands and so little action. There's a Snapcaster for the Kolaghan's Command. Gonna flash it back, make us discard, and hit us for 2, I assume? Yep, alright. Down to 12. Opponent gets in. Down to 10. Well, Collective Brutality, kill Snapcaster. Pass the turn. And yeah, looks like we're going to get the time win. And I honestly don't know who would have won if the game continued. The Tasigur was good for our opponent. What would we have drawn? I mean, I guess we could shuffle to change the order, but assuming we kept not cracking our fetches, well, I guess it's not working. Alright, well, we'll never know. But a win's a win. Super long. I'm not sure why it took our opponent so long to play that deck. It doesn't seem particularly slow, but I mean, Blackburn. A win is a win is a win is a win. Thanks for watching the video. If you're subscribed, make sure to hit that bell icon to get notifications for all the latest videos. It's a great way to support the channel for free, and you can find the next video right here.